Welcome to In the Community with Tiffany K.
And we're back within the community. I'm Tiffany K. And this week we're going to talk about something that's actually a really cool program. And I can't wait to learn more about it. It's the Fairy Godmother Program. And I have three incredible women in here with me to talk about this. I have Andy, who is the co-founder. Got to get that in there first. And retreat and hospice coordinator. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Perfect. And Christina is the outreach and events coordinator. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. And Kathleen is the executive director.
Thank you, Tiffany, for having us.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for coming in. And I'm really excited to learn more about this project because I still say I'm kind of new to the area. We kind of said that when I was talking earlier. I've now gotten the layout of getting places without GPS, but now it's more of what are the programs that are happening in the area.
Yeah.
So whoever would like to start, just give me the rundown. What is Fairy Godmother Project? I know it's a big question, so we'll have some time to get through it.
Well, I guess I will start.
Okay.
So Fairy Godmother Project serves families in our community who have children with cancer. The reason the organization exists is because our community does not have a place for these families to have treatment, go for treatment. And so that is what started the organization, was seeing this need in our community, this big gap where all of the families who are undergoing treatment have to drive, a minimum of 50 miles, depending on where they choose to go for their services.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of implications of that, financial, emotional. And so we try and step in and help with those things for the caregiver. So we help with things like gas cards and grocery cards to offset the costs that they're undergoing because of their travel. And house cleaning, lawn care.
Oh, wow.
We help pay for bills. There's a large gamut of things that we do, but they're all focused on what the families, the parents especially, need.
Well, and I'm sure, especially when you get that first cancer diagnosis, you're not thinking of all the extra things that come with it. You're thinking, how can I treat my child?
Yeah.
And that's your main focus. But there are those little things that go off to the side a little bit from there that you're like, oh no, which is what I love about this project. Can I ask, how did the project start? What are the origin story of the Fairy Godmother Project?
I kept... I sometimes say, like, someone kept knocking, right? So I had a child in my class whose brother had brain cancer when I was a teacher in early 2002, and then didn't really know what to do with that. How do you help a family in that situation? And then the next year I relocated out to Phoenix, and a couple down the street from us had a child who was a brain cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
And I learned a lot from that mom about the loneliness of it and about how people showed up and then disappeared, and people showed up that they didn't expect, but that they were really struggling, just with day-to-day stuff when he was going through treatment. And then we came back to Virginia, and it was a few years later, and I was in a twin mom group, and a child in the twin mom group was diagnosed with a brain cancer, and she was a twin, and so we were in this twin mom group together. I didn't really know the mom, but I watched as everybody really pledged to help, and then kind of got busy, which is what I had been told repeatedly by people would happen. And so I decided I was going to help this woman. Fortunately, she didn't think I was like a stalker because I didn't know her. And I just kind of watched what happened, became a person that she could rely on to call if things weren't going well. And I did some fundraising for them. And then when it was all over, this is probably the longest answer to your question.
No, you're fine.
When it was all over, the mom asked me if I would be her daughter's fairy godmother.
Oh.
And I said yes, of course. But then I thought, gosh, maybe there's a need in this community for this kind of support, sort of like this outlying person who just shows up and like checks in and isn't someone that brings their own grief or concerns about the child specifically because they aren't connected to the family in any way.
Right.
And just sort of explored that, and that was in 2010, and FGP became an official nonprofit in 2012.
Oh, wow. You don't even think about that when you offer to help somebody in those times of need and then life happens. We've
Right.
all said it. How many times have we scheduled out 6 months ahead to meet up with a friend?
Right.
Well,
yeah.
families don't get that time when they're dealing with this.
Right.
So thank you for creating this program because I love the name Fairy Godmother Program. When I was looking it up, I was like, this is just such a cool idea. And you think of the magic and like being aunts to these kids and the families and kind of helping out. So let me ask Christina, how did you get involved?
So I have had the honor of coming alongside a few families that became FGP families, which means their child has a cancer diagnosis.
Okay.
And so just seeing how much FGP rallied and came alongside these families in times when people would back off, or when a couple months later they would kind of forget about it or something like that. And so I was able to learn through FGP, through doing that, and through my past work as an outreach manager. And so it just kind of came naturally for me. Yeah.
And of course, Kathleen, I have to ask, how did you get involved in the program as well?
Well, I have been very involved in the community for a while, and I became aware of the Fairy Godmother Project through Andy, and we'd worked on a couple of other projects together, and it seemed to just be a right fit, because it really is the purpose of the program, of the whole project, is time, to give families more time with their child, right? So all those everyday things that you have to do, what can we do to kind of help alleviate those? Or how can we help, bolster you up so that you have that ability to have that time with your child? And that's why all the things that Andy was talking about that, we help with, is because those are those everyday things. You have to have a food on the table. Yeah. Your grass grows, especially in this rain. Yeah. So you have to, it's got to get cut. It's like you got to go back and forth to doctor's appointments. What's going to happen? The car has to have gas. So it's all those things that you take for granted, that it's just one more thing to have to deal with when you're already dealing with an intense, challenge. Yeah. Both emotionally and physically, everything. So that's really what its purpose is what can we do to give them that quality time and support them and to remind them that they are part of a caring community.
Yeah. I was just about to say, it's bringing the community together.
For sure.
And a lot of times people don't realize that, like, in those healing situations, we all have probably known someone or been affected by cancer. Yeah. And in those times, the time that you get with that person means more than having to mow the lawn or vacuum, your house or whatever. So let me ask this, as we were talking about community, how is the community involved in this project, and how can they get involved? Once again, an overreaching question, but we got time.
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
There are a lot of ways that the community can get involved. I mean, first part, by volunteering. Okay. So they can volunteer their time to be what we call a lead volunteer. And that's someone who is connected with the family. They keep in touch, but they keep in touch without really an expectation of, that person, returning that, right? It's all about, I'm checking in on you. I just want you to know I care. You don't have to contact me back, but I want you to know I'm here. Okay. Those kind of things that have no strings attached, just that I want you to know that you're cared about. Which is important, and they're very invested. We have volunteers that come out that make meals every other month, and so they pre-package the meals and they put them all together, and then they get delivered, and they're frozen meals so that the families can just pull them out, and be able to easily heat something up and serve their family a healthy meal together. We have volunteers who help out at the different events that we have, like our Stardust Ball that's coming up here in September. Okay. Which is an exciting time for the community to come together to learn more about our families and the work that's being done, kind of the underlying purpose of it, but be part of be engaged in the process, because it really is, it can't just be one person. Right. It does take a community. And it's really that community to wrap around the families at this point in their time,
And I'm sure you have all ages helping out to volunteer. High school students all the way up.
We do.
Yeah. So how can high school students get involved?
So it's really exciting. It's our Heart of Gold program. Okay. And it's the ability for high schools, typically juniors and seniors, really take what FGP stands for and runs with it. Creates awareness in their school, at their school events. There's been times when everybody wears gold to a football game, or just finds different ways to even fundraise within their school. I believe in the past, some teachers have been able to buy gene passes that donate to then get, donated back to FGP and stuff like that. And it's really a great way for so many students and teenagers just to learn about something that maybe they haven't ran into in life yet. Hopefully they haven't. But, not everybody has that experience going into the real adult world. And so this gives them a chance to really become an advocate for FGP and speak on our behalf to other people. And in that, it reaches the teachers, it reaches the counselors, it reaches the administration, it reaches tons of families, because when you go to a football game, you're wondering why everybody's wearing gold all of a sudden.
Yep.
And so it helps to create an awareness of what FGP stands for and what they do within the community through something as simple as that.
So how can people get involved? Do they call? Do they go to a website? Are there events that you're recruiting at?
So for the Heart of Gold, or just in general?
In general, either one.
So on our website, they can go, and it's actually really simple for volunteers. We have an online video that they can watch. It's about an hour long, but we found over time, and we fortunately did that before COVID hit. We happen to have implemented that year, and it works out really well because they can go on there. Then there's questions that they have to answer, but if they're interested, they're almost immediately able to get started. So there's an application, they fill out those questions, and then there are a background check as well as references.
Okay.
But it's a pretty simple process, and then we really do believe in like putting people where they want to be, right? So, and I think that's a common volunteer, philosophy, but it's so important that people know, especially those listening, that like if the idea of being around a pediatric cancer family seems scary to them, we have so many opportunities that really are not interfacing with the families, but still making a huge difference. And much of our programming, with the exception of like the lead volunteer and another program we have called Adopt a Family, like there's very limited interaction between our volunteers and the families. And that's because we want our families to feel that they are not being exploited. Their experience is not being exploited. So, when we have deliveries made, volunteers deliver things and leave them on the front porch. They don't even interact with the families. There's no expectation of like a big thank you. And our volunteers get that. They know that what they're doing matters, and they don't necessarily need to have, any kind of accolades coming from the families. We of course are appreciative and all that, but it's very important to us as an organization that the families know that their privacy is important, and all someone knows when they go to drop off is there's a child that lives in that house that has cancer, and that's it.
Wow.
So, and we've always kind of done that. It's been important to us.
I think that's a great message to put out, because I think nowadays the idea of doing a good deed without getting recognition for it is very much lost with social media. And it's one thing to post for awareness of the cause and everything. Right. It's another to post it for self-awareness of, look what I did.
Absolutely.
So I love the way that you said that and the way you're doing it as well. Plus, as you said, the families are already dealing with enough. They don't want to be exploited for that.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's such an important point to make on the show. But going back for a second, you were talking about the different programs. Adopt a Family. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. And we are looking for people to get involved with that. So every 6 months we transition. We have volunteers that agree to be they adopt a family, which is why the name is what it is. And what they do is it's one more, one of the things I think that we do that's super important and we do well is just like, sort of like love taps. Excuse me, like just reminding these families that people are thinking of them and they're not people they know. Yeah. And I think that's a kind of a profound idea. Like everyone loves to be surrounded when they're dealing with stress, and they have their people, but we kind of provide extra people who keep showing up. And we show up month after month. We consistently, through the entire experience with treatment, we're there every month. We do the same thing. It doesn't waver. And so they always have this support. And then they have this person who they have no idea who the person is on the other end. There's no expectation of a thank you to that volunteer. It's literally just this thing comes, and it's not even necessarily, it doesn't say like from Andy. It's like from FGP. And it can be anything from just a nice card written, a gift card. It can be, sometimes our volunteers will do like kind of like a package for the family if it's summertime, some activities that they could do, a movie pack, just different things like that they, but it gives our volunteers an opportunity to know they're making a difference in a different way without overwhelming the families with like the burden of this volunteer who really wants to get to know them, but instead they get to have this opportunity to make a difference, but in kind of a unique way. And we've had businesses do it before, where we had one local company called STF, and they adopted 3 families. And so as a team, they would collect everything monthly. They created different themes of what they were going to do. And, sometimes it was like electronics. So they sent earbuds, or AirPods or whatever they're called. And then,
whatever it is nowadays.
Chargers, that kind of thing. That was like 1 month. And then another month they were like, we're going to put together, like fun snacks, so they just had all these different things. And then the whole team was able to contribute, but without it being a big burden on them as an individual financially.
Oh, wow.
And so you could bring whatever worked for you. And then we coordinated with them to get them shipped. So that there's opportunities for that. I mean, we often fill the volunteer roles with the majority of our volunteers, but we are absolutely open to, we've had Life Point Church has been involved. They've done it before. Awesome. And we have the Give Back team, which is a local real estate company. They've done it before. So there's opportunities like that for businesses to take it on for 6 months, and they may love it and say, I want to do another 6 months, or they may not, but it helps a lot. And, it's a message more than anything. It's not about the things that they send, but it's about this message that there are people in your community that have your back. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's really what FGP is about for these families in a really lonely time, is saying, and it's a transient area, so we have families that are military, we have families that are here for a short period of time, or people who haven't necessarily they don't have roots here, and they're on their own, and it's isolating. Yeah. But we can come in and be that support that they don't necessarily have.
And I can relate to that. Like I said, I moved here 2 years ago from a completely different state, no family or anything. Yeah. So having just a community back base, no one maybe knows you, but like there's somebody there. Yeah. Is always a helpful thing. It makes you feel like you're not so isolated.
Yeah, and I think there's also less burden in it. Yeah. From the standpoint is they don't feel like they owe us anything, and they shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes with family and friends, you
feel
feel like,
oh gosh, I'm going to have to remember,
Yep, yes. Where's that extra birthday card or something like that.
Yes.
I'm speaking with Andy, Christina, and Kathleen with the Fairy Godmother Project. So like many businesses, you guys have faced some challenges with staffing, of course, and of course after COVID. So how have you been able to handle that, and how are you looking to get help now with it?
Well, I mean, I would say I will speak to that since the two lovely ladies are newer than I am. It's been a challenge. And I think one of the things that we have done well is it hasn't impacted our families. So no matter what has transpired, and, we have had a lot of turnover, and it hasn't been fun. It wasn't fun when I was in the role of executive director. It hasn't been fun. But what it has been is it's been a testament to our volunteers and to our community, because even when we had a new person in the outreach position and then they left, it didn't stop the fact that we are still doing for these families, and we still need the support of the community, and our community has rallied. They've continued to support us, and that's been really great. It's a good reminder to us as an organization that we do a really good job of staying focused on the mission. And so all these other things happening, no matter what, our families are the absolute most important. And if by any chance somehow that gets disrupted, there has to be a change at the organization. We are always focused on making a difference in the lives of these families. And we do it, and we do it well. And so I think it has not been easy internally. Right. To have turnover and have onboarding and all those things, but we haven't let it impact the families. And I think that's a testament to who we are as an organization and who we will continue to be.
Loyal.
Yes, absolutely.
Loyal is like
reliable.
The perfect word. Reliable. Loyal.
Yeah.
And I think those words are important when you have a business like this. You have a project like this. You want those families to know somebody's there for them and consistently there for them.
Yes, and that's our values as an organization. One of them is reliability.
Yeah.
And we believe in that heavily. Like we for some of our families, not all, like many of our families have an amazing support system, but not all of them do. And so it's important for us to be that reliable force the entire time, not just the first 3 months when it seems like things are hard, but it is every single month. We do not waver. They get the exact same thing. They know when it's coming. They choose what kind of supports they want. Okay. And our goal is always that they don't have to ask us for it. It's just coming.
Right. Which is nice, because it's hard to ask for help.
It is. And it's one of the things as an organization that, we've been talking about a lot lately, is that communication piece. Like, if we have to over communicate to these families to ensure that they know that we, because there have been changes, it doesn't matter, that you still are first and foremost in our heads. And, it's an important message for our families and for our volunteers, because our volunteers are really a huge part of our community. And it's been hard for them to get to know a new staff member who then leaves. Right. But trying to maintain reliability for them, showing them how important they are to us. You know, like it matters to us that you feel comfortable with the new people. Like we're doing a lot to make sure that we're rebuilding that community for the volunteers, the families, and for our donors.
Well, and the constant has been the volunteers. Our volunteers, we as staff get to come alongside of the volunteers because they're the ones doing the hard work. They're in the field regularly with these families, and they desire loving on these families and caring for these families and doing the things that they do month in and month out.
I do want to go back to how the company has grown, because you said it started in 2010 and now we are in 2023, and you've been able to help so many families. And so can you tell me a little bit about how it's grown and where you want to see it grow in the future?
Oh gosh, that's such a loaded question.
I know, it's hard.
Yeah. Well, I think mainly what, the kind of the keys of what's happened with FGP is because it's organically grown, right? It's not a chapter of another organization. So our growth has been based on what we have learned. Every lesson we've learned from families, because they, for me, I have thankfully never had a child with cancer, so I don't know. And I have watched all these families and I've walked alongside them, but I still don't know.
Right.
Plain and simple, I don't. And so I think the key thing has been kind of a slow, steady growth organically of programs as needed, right? So when we first started, I was like, we should give gas cards and grocery cards. No idea really what we were doing. Just like, let's see how this goes. And then we started having new experiences with the families. We had a child die. Well, we didn't have programs in place to help that family. So what would that look like as an organization to put those programs in place? And so every program and all the growth has really been based on what we've witnessed, what we've experienced with our families, and them telling us what they needed.
Okay.
And that's kind of how we've kind of grown, is like first it was just we help families who had kids currently in treatment. Now we have programs that help families who have had a child die and beyond. We do bereavement programs. We have support groups. We do the retreats. We do outings for those families. Then the survivor remission, and we didn't do it in the order you would think. Survivor and remission, we just added those programs a few years ago. And with that, they get added support the first couple of years as they transition out of being what we call current family.
Okay.
Because they're done with treatment, but they're not done with doctor's appointments.
Right.
So we're still assisting with gas and those type of things, helping pay bills for them, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then we have the retreats, and we also have support groups for them. And so it's grown kind of as the needs have arisen based on our, we survey our families. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well?
Right.
What could we do differently? What do you need? Do you like this? Do you not like this? And
you're listening and learning.
Yeah. And I think, I'm sure there's someone out there, there's probably people out there who would say that, like, Andy thinks she knows it all. And I don't. But what I do know is that our families do.
Exactly.
And every family's experience is different. And that's one of the things that I was just talking with Kathleen about this, is like sometimes organizations are started by someone who's had a specific experience, like, someone who had a child with cancer. So they start an organization to help families with cancer, and which is wonderful.
Right.
But their view is only their experience.
Exactly.
And so they're like, well, I didn't get this or this, so the organization is going to do this and this because no one did this for me. And they're not always as eager, and it's not necessarily just cancer families, just in general, nonprofits that pop up. But not having had the experience has been beneficial, because I don't know. I only know what they tell us, and that we can then develop it. Like I might have an idea, and I've had ideas, and they're like, no, why would we have that? And we've tried programs that haven't worked, and we've done different things like that. But I think that kind of the growth, and then we have grown. We do support families in the Northern Neck as well, just because it's a situation where they are in the same predicament. They have to drive, but they also have less resources than our families do locally. So we added that on about 2 years ago.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that I love that, as you said, you don't know.
I don't.
But you're willing to listen.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And you're right. Sometimes when someone starts an organization from their own perspective, they can't look beyond that, which is great for that specific need, but you can't service as many people as you would like to.
Yeah, you can't grow.
Exactly.
If you're not open to seeing what else there is and how things evolve, you can't grow.
Exactly. I'm speaking with Andy, Christina, and Kathleen as the Fairy Godmother Project. I can't speak today. I'm sorry, guys. So I will ask you, Christina, what events are you having coming up towards the end of the year? Because you are the events coordinator.
I am so excited about this question.
Okay, let me have it.
So September 8th, we have a golf tournament. That's to honor one of our FGP families and one of the children. And so his mom puts on the golf tournament every single year. And so that information is also going to be online. You can always find our events on our Facebook page as well.
Okay.
But we have our Stardust Ball, which is our annual gala. That's on September 29th. And it's going to be at the Old Silk Mill.
Ooh.
And it's an opportunity to come to learn more, like Kathleen said, about Fairy Godmother Project, if maybe you don't know, to support the organization, to honor those families that either are going through treatments or unfortunately maybe have lost their child through the treatments. And we also have an auction, really good food,
open
drinks,
bar,
exactly,
well,
open bar. And so it's just a really exciting time, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun going on through the year.
Yes.
There's a lot coming up for you all.
Yes, and we have plenty more next year. But right now our focus
Those are our two
is
main
our
things.
two big things coming up, and we're just so excited about it.
And one more time, whoever would like to, where can volunteers reach out to you, families? Where should they follow on social media?
They can just come straight to our website, so fgpinfo.org.
Okay.
You can also search on Facebook, and you can find our Facebook page. Either way, you can contact us, and we'd love to tell you more about all the great things that are being done that you can be a part of.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for coming in today. You have an amazing organization, and I can't wait to learn more about it when you come back next time.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for In the Community this week. If you are a nonprofit and need to bring attention to your cause or organization, please reach out through this station's website, and we will see you next week.